Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1667A, and today's date is September 18th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Plan is on Track, Central Banks Begin to Panic. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we're starting to see panic throughout D.C. and with the Fed, all at the same time. Now, with D.C., we understand that Trump is set to declassify pretty much everything. And we'll be getting into that a little bit later. But we can see that the DC environment, they are in a total panic because they don't want this to happen. The plan here, and we need to remember what this plan is. The plan is to eliminate the deep state, to eliminate the central bank. And how do we do that? Remember, the central bank is the root cause and the problem of all of this. They are the system that feeds the monster through creating currency out of thin air, loaning it to the government, allowing the government to create different programs, spend as much as they want, with no checks and balances. Without the central bank there and checks and balances in place, guess what happens? You cut down on a lot of the corruption. I mean, think about all the funds that have been diverted to Afghanistan and all other places where they're looking and saying, listen, $100 million was spent over there for schools and there's one school there. What do you think the rest went? What we're seeing here is the plan moving forward where it's going to take down, and this is the first steps, take down the deep state. Eventually, this will all lead back to the central bank, and that is going to be last. And we can see that the process is already moving forward. Now, we know that Trump has been removing the trade deals that were put into place by the deep state, the central banks, in the past. Remember, their plan was to push everything to China. I mean, just think about this for a second. China was visited by most of the presidents. They were set up, manufacturing was set up, and they made deals to allow low-paying workers to create and manufacture products that would be shipped back to the United States. In the meantime, the manufacturing here in the United States would be moved out of the country. This was the plan, and this was the plan that they used. We can see that if there was another person in office, this plan would be moving forward. Actually, we'd probably be in a war already. What is happening here is that all those plans are being stopped, terminated. And this is why Trump is terminating TPP, which he already did. Rewriting NAFTA. He would like to terminate it, but it's a little difficult at this time. And working out bilateral trade agreements with many different countries. Even a former Obama administration official says that, yes, these trade deals needed to be cleaned up a long time ago. He doesn't agree the way Trump is doing this, but it had to be cleaned up. Now, the thing is, he's not cleaning them up. He's terminating them. And we do have a problem with global trade. It was all centralized by one system. And now it's being ripped apart. We see that Trump announced another $200 billion in tariffs on Chinese stuff, to which China responded with $60 billion in tariffs on our stuff. When we see these tariffs being put into place, they're being done on purpose. They're being done to bring the businesses back to the United States, to make it more difficult for companies to stay outside of the United States, to make it more expensive for them to stay outside of the United States. Yes, is this a perfect plan? No, but in the end, the long-term plan, it will work. The short-term, remember, we're coming out of a globalist system. So the short-term plan, people are going to say, well, look at this. It's going to cost more for steel, so this industry is going to have a problem. It's going to cost for more for this product. But the point is to bring all of that back over here to manufacture it over here so it doesn't cost more. Now, everything can't be done at once. I mean, think about it. The central bank, the deep states, they've had many, many years to move everything out of this country. Here we are, what were we in? 2 years of Trump being president and this plan being put into place. Yes, we're going to see bumps in the road. It's going to be difficult because we're breaking a system that was put into place for a completely different reason. So we see the Fed right now. The Fed is starting to panic. Now, I do believe that Powell is working with Trump to bring the central bank system down. And the only way to do this is to continually raise the interest rates. And it looks like they're going to be raising one in September. But we see there are other Fed heads within the central bank establishment. They're saying maybe December we shouldn't raise the interest rates. Now, remember, with every country, even here in the United States and abroad, there's always deep state factions where they're not on board with the patriots. We saw this in North Korea. We're seeing it in Iran. We're seeing it in many of the countries around the world, even here in the United States. And we also have it in the central banking system. There are individuals in there saying that this is not right. We should get rid of the central bank system that they're working in. So with Trump imposing these tariffs of around $200 billion on Chinese goods, the Federal Reserve is saying, listen, we're not going to stop raising the rates in September, but we might have to look at December and we might have to skip it. Now, Trump, with this plan, he is pushing the economy to the extreme. He is taking the statistical information and making it look like it's better than ever. And I believe the next quarter, it's going to be even more incredible. And he can make it look any way he wants. He has the magic wand. The Fed is in panic mode because they're trying to figure out a way to get out of this. Those in the Fed, they don't want to raise the rates anymore. They know if they continually raise the rates, they're going to crash the system and they will be blamed. There are others like Powell that are inside saying that we should raise the rates. And we can see that when we look at this, this is the plan. Now, if they skip December, it doesn't mean it's all over. It means that the next time around, they're going to raise it again. And it might be that they're buying time. They don't want it to come down as quickly. But we can see that this plan is moving forward. We don't want to bring down the central bank and destroy the economy just yet until those players are out of the way. Because the first stage is to get rid of those players. Because if we don't get rid of those players, I'm talking about the deep state, the cabal, they'll find other ways to fund what they're doing. Remember, they have a lot of covert operations. They sell opium, other drugs, and they're able to fund their operation. Just like out in Syria with the Islamic State, they were funding it through the stolen oil that they took from Syria, moved into Turkey, sold in the European markets. And this is how they funded this gigantic operation. So we need to get rid of certain corrupt individuals, then bring it to the next level, and then eventually cut off all funding completely. But if we don't dismantle all of this, it'll be completely impossible. And we see the mainstream media out there, they're putting out different articles saying that, because of these trade wars, the Fed might have to limit their interest rate hikes plans for December. September, still on the drawing board, but December is questionable because what they're saying is they're going to see unemployment rise, they're going to see GDP fall, and this is what they wanted from the beginning. Remember, their plan, if we're looking at the opposite side here, their plan was to blame this all on Trump, and they still, in some way, believe that they have the control. Because remember, they thought they were going to be in control of all of this. They were going to have the magic wand. They were going to make the economy do what they wanted it to do. They were going to make the economy fall apart. They know that this is built on an illusion. They knew they were going to bring it down. They thought under Trump that all of this was going to completely fall apart, and they can point the finger. But the opposite is happening. And they don't know how to get around this, because what they were going to eventually do was start reporting how the economy was doing very poorly. They started to do this, and then all of a sudden Trump turned around, made GDP skyrocket, unemployment fall, and make it look like the economy is better than ever. Now, they're still using the same method. they're still trying to say that the economy is going to fall apart because Trump is pushing forth this $200 billion tariff on China. Now, again, Xi Jinping and Trump, they are working together, same thing with Putin, to get rid of the central bank system, to destroy what they had in place. And we can see that China, Russia, they want fair economic trade, bilateral, decentralized trade. And what does the U.S. want? The U.S. wants the same exact thing. Look what Trump is doing. He's actually kind of following the model of China and Russia, making bilateral trades with all different countries instead of having a centralized trade package. The Belt and Road is a decentralized platform, and they're making bilateral trades with all different countries, just like the U.S. now. So everything is all coming together, and the plan is moving forward. The central bank, the deep state, they're going to try to stop this any way they possibly can because they worked very, very hard for a very long time to make everything a one-world globalist system. And now they see it falling apart. And they know once the dominoes start to fall in D.C., it's only a matter of time before it hits the central bank. And we need to remember, and I mentioned this before, when Russia is calling out to use decentralized currency, using your own national currency, it's not about destroying the U.S. It's about destroying the central banking system. Because, listen, if all the countries in Europe decide, hey, you know something? Let's not use the euro anymore. It's not benefiting us. It really doesn't benefit any of these countries. It puts them into further and further into debt. Let's use our national currency. Let's get rid of the euro. Let's have China, Russia use their national currency for trade. Let's have the U.S. use its national currency for trade. Get rid of the petrodollar system. And this will destroy the central bank. Remember, the central bank wants a centralized system, a centralized currency. And countries now are calling for a decentralized system. This is something the central banks do not want. And as you can see, the plan now is moving forward with everything that we're seeing. And it's going to affect everything. It's not just one little thing. It affects everything. And yes, we're going to have to go through a transition because we just can't come off of the central bank system, flip a switch and say everything is great. Because the entire world is inundated with debt. They've been using the dollar. Many of the countries, like the U.S., might not even have gold. And countries are going to lose faith. And when this happens, the dollar will plummet. People will no longer use the dollar. Countries will use a national currency instead. And we can see that we're headed in this way. And it's one step at a time. Things have changed, and we can see more changes are coming. And as these changes come, it's going to hit the economy of the world, the global economy. And for many countries, it's going to be very difficult. For other countries, it's going to be a little bit easier. China and Russia might have a little bit easier time. They've been amassing a lot of gold. They're building faith in their system. They have a lot of bilateral trade agreements. The U.S. most likely has no gold. The faith in the dollar, the faith in our governmental system is going to deteriorate. And countries are going to look at this and say, oh, yeah, look what's going on in the United States over the many, many years. These people are corrupt. Yes, it's getting better, but we don't trust them anymore. And once you lose the trust, everything starts to fall apart. And they've been preparing for this. They know we're going to have to go through this transition. Just like coming off all of these trade deals. It's bumpy, but in the long run, it will be better off for everyone because this will be a people's system. So get prepared because we are going through this transition. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.